What's up, brothers and sisters? Let's talk about drug addiction and drugs today because, I'm a recovering drug addict. I got 20 years of using drugs and I've been clean. I've been sober since about August 12th. I had a little slip between now and then, but been doing good. And the reason I want to talk about drug addicts is because I'm sure everyone knows at least one person, either in their friend circle or in their family, that is a drug addict. So it affects everyone. The use of drugs is around everywhere. And the reason I want to talk about it today is because a lot of people don't understand drug addicts. Sometimes they don't understand what we go through and the things that we have been through. For example, they don't understand that we actually do have a disease. And what happens is that disease actually hijacks our brain at some point. And we end up doing a bunch of dumb shit and becoming people that we're not. And it's hard on us. You know, I was always the black sheep in my family. I was that person. I was the drug addict. I was the one that everyone looked at like, oh, there comes this guy. Here we go. And it's hard when you're living like that because the way other people view you is like, well, he's getting high, so he's good. And because he's getting high, he's living this life of being high and enjoying life, and he gets to just get high all the time and not worry about anything, while we sit here and stress out about everything that he puts us through. And what they don't understand is, yeah, we get high, and in the beginning, for most of us, it's fun. Why else would we continue to do it if it wasn't fun at some point? But what ends up happening is our addiction. We become a slave to our addiction. Like when you do sins, you become a slave to your sin. And so we become addicted, and next thing you know, we're in it and we can't get out of it. And what some people don't realize is we're not having this great time being high all the time. Sometimes we are. Some days are okay, but like most of the time, it's very stressful. It's hard. You got all these problems, all these issues, and you're running from it. I mean, at least for me, I would always run from my problems. I didn't want to deal with any of it, so I would go numb. I kept trying to get higher and higher and higher just so I didn't have to deal with my problems. And instead of dealing with any of my problems, they just got worse and worse and worse. And the reason I'm bringing this to you guys' attention is when you see someone in your family, sometimes you guys get angry with them. I know people got angry with me and they're like, oh, well, you put us through this and that. And I'm like, I was also putting myself through a lot of things. And I'm not trying to justify drug addicts or like say that what we did was right or anything like that. All I'm saying is we're going through it too. And my best recommendation for someone that does know a drug addict or an alcoholic or someone in their family that's basically giving them problems in their life to where they're getting resentment toward that person. They're saying, oh, you put me through this. My best recommendation for you is to love them, but if you have to love them from a distance. Don't go around them if as much. Definitely don't give them money. Don't give them money because you know what they're going to do with it. If anything, doesn't mean don't help them. If they need a place to stay or something, you can give them a place to stay or food to eat. Buy them some clothes or something like that, but don't give them money and then get mad at them because they go use the money for drugs, guys. Come on, I never understood that. When I was a drug addict, people would give me money and then they turn around and get mad at me because I used the money for drugs. I'm like, bro, really? You knew I was going to use the money for drugs. I'm an addict. Like, what do you think I'm going to use it for? Or if you give them something really nice, make sure they don't have a way of taking it back to the store and returning it. Don't give them the receipt. Don't tell them where you got it from. Like, you just have to understand this person actually has a disease. They can't fully control what they're doing. It's if you haven't been there and you're not an addict, it's hard for a lot of people to understand. But what I'm trying to let you guys know is sometimes that person is just completely out of their mind and they just really need some help. And the sad thing is a lot of them don't get help. A lot of them will end up in prison or they'll end up dead. And their life is a very hard life, and it's sad, and they are depressed. You see them sometimes and they look high and they're like, oh, and they might look like they're having a good time, but deep down that person is suffering. Let me tell you, deep down the person is suffering, guys, and they're going through a lot. So just try to have some compassion, especially for my fellow followers of Christ. When you see someone like that, try not to judge them. It's hard for us guys when we're addicted. I know when you see people like that, it's just like you think, oh well, they're just doing this because you know they have a disease, and a lot of them will die from that disease. They're not going to make it out. A lot of these people will be dead and or in prison, and they have more problems than you could probably even imagine. So just try to be compassionate about it. Don't blame them so much for wrecking your life. It's your responsibility to make yourself happy. It's your responsibility to set boundaries with toxic people. If you have someone that's an addict in your life, my honest advice to you would be set boundaries. Don't give them money because you're going to be upset because you're going to borrow, or don't lend them money, I should say, because they're probably not going to pay it back, guys. I'm just letting you know the truth. If you lend a drug addict money and then you get mad at them for not paying you back, this might sound kind of harsh, but it's your fault. Like, you should have known what you were doing, guys. They're an addict. You really thought they were going to pay you back? I mean, you just got to be smarter about it. You have to understand that person is not in their right mind, and you are. So, check this out. Now that I'm in recovery, and I sobered up, and I'm starting to realize a lot of people thought I was the one living it up, having a good time, being high, while I neglected all my responsibilities. But now that I got sober and right with God, I'm seeing that it was actually the opposite. I'm having a good time now. I'm having a way better time now than I did when I was high. So try to be more compassionate for our brothers and sisters that are suffering through this. And it's everywhere, guys. That fentanyl thing is out of control. Meth, that's a whole nother thing. I mean, a lot of these drugs, once you get high, especially on something like that meth, you're not the same person anymore. Your mind, especially as time goes on, your mind is just not going to be right. So the decisions you are making are not going to be normal. They're not going to be decisions like you and I would make, that sober people are going to make. The things they are doing, they may not even know they're doing. And I still come from a point where, because there's some drug addicts that just don't want help. There are some of them that just want to get high, and there's nothing you can do for them. If they don't want it, there's really nothing you can do except for pray for them. You can pray for them that they have a change, but people like that are probably going to be the ones that end up dead or in jail or in prison. Because if you don't want it, if you don't want to be sober, if you don't want it, look at it this way. When you're in an addiction like that, you have a disease. And if you don't want it with your all, if you're not giving it your all to get out of that disease, to go into remission, where you have, if you want to climb out of that hole, you're going to have to give it your all. And if you don't even want to climb out of that hole, chances are you ain't going to do it. And no matter how much you love that person, how much you want to get them out, all you can really do is pray for them. And just don't make the mistake. If you're new and this is like your first time around and you've never dealt with this, I'm telling you, you have to set boundaries with that person. Otherwise, later on in life, you're going to end up resenting them for the things they put you through. When the truth is, it was your responsibility to set those boundaries and not allow that person to do that to you. Sometimes you have to kick them out of your life. And it's hard to say that because I didn't want to be kicked out of people's lives, but I understand now why people would have had to do that. And drug addiction sucks, guys. It sucks for everyone. It sucks for the person that's on it. It sucks for the families, for the children, for the spouses, for the family members, the moms, the dads. Everyone suffers through it. But the person who is in the addiction, doing it to themselves, they're the ones with the disease. They're the one that has to make the decision. The other people around them can blame them, but they still are responsible for their lives. You can't blame someone else for making you miserable or for screwing up your life. You have to set boundaries. Now, it's not always easy to do. Sometimes you've been married to the person for so many years, or maybe it's your mom or your dad that's in it, or maybe, you know what I mean? Like, so those boundaries are harder for you to set, but that's when you turn it over to God. There are some things that you just have to turn over to God. And I just wanted to let that out there, guys, like, because a lot of times I see people who are drug addicted and stuff, and I see a lot of people that look down on them, and they're just kind of like, oh, look at this guy, he's a loser and this and that. But they, this is usually coming from someone that hasn't been through it, and I've been through it. So I'm just trying to stick up for my fellow brothers and sisters that are in it, because I know how it is, guys. You're walking around with, you're the black sheep, or you're the one, and everyone's always talking bad about you. You're being blamed for stuff you didn't even do because you're just the easy person to blame. When something goes wrong, blame the addict, right? He's the easy one to blame. It's always his fault. And it's not always their fault, though. It's just easier for people to do. And it gets harder for the drug addict to stick up for themselves because they get used to that treatment. And it's a sad life. It's hard, bro. And when people treat you that way, you just want to get higher. You just want to keep using. You're like, man. But my recommendation to my brothers and sisters that are high, don't listen to them people, guys. You have to do it for yourselves. If you want to make it out of this addiction, you're going to have to fight with everything you got. And for a lot of us, it's too much to do. That's why you just turn it to God, and God will guide you out of it. And if you give it to God, it'll be a lot easier. I know people that have made it out of addiction without God, and it's a few. And, there's some warriors, but if you're like me, I couldn't. I was so deep in it, I needed my God to get me out of it. I couldn't do it. I was so deep in it. There's no way. There's just no way. I tried with everything. And then when I gave it to God, God will give you a way. He will always give you a way. He'll make a way. He's the way maker. He's the miracle worker. He'll be the light in the darkness. He is awesome. And so I just give encouragement. Anyone that's in it, keep fighting. Don't give up. If you have a family member or a friend that's suffering through it, try not to resent them so much. Try not to hate them for your life being miserable and blaming them because they're an addict. You're responsible for your happiness and your life. You can't get mad at someone else for getting high and then you being miserable because of it. You have to give it to God, and you have to set boundaries, and you have to either get away from that person or you have to set boundaries to where that person's no longer affecting your life like that. It's up to you, and you're responsible for your life and the way you feel, not them and their using. So I'm sticking up for them a little bit. But I'm also saying, I'm not giving them, I'm not saying they're in the right at all, by no means. People who use drugs, including myself, hurt other people, and it's not right that we do that. We hurt ourselves the most. But I just want to give you guys some encouragement. I'm going to get back to work, guys. If you guys are addicted and you're trying to get through the addiction, keep fighting, give it to God. You'll get out of it. I love you guys. All right, bye. God bless.